What's up guys, welcome back to a new video. If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. As always, Henry SVTV here, coming at you with more gaming content, and today we have a new exciting topic to talk about as we have new information from Alien's Fireteam. I've been covering up this game for a lot lately, so in case you haven't heard of this game, please feel free to check out the videos in the description box so that you can get all of the information that you need to know. Now, in regards to today's video, we will talk about how Alien's Fireteam fits into the Alien universe, including Prometheus and Covenant. Interesting enough, we will also talk about how this game, despite being focused on a co-op survival shooter experience, it's pretty heavily bent towards the RPG genre. And lastly, we will mention a couple of exciting details that have been revealed by the developers, so as you can see, it is a pretty interesting video for today, so make sure to stay till the end. Now, I know your time is valuable, so I'll be as concise as possible, and I'll also add the different timelines to the different topics in the description box in case you're interested in one specific topic, but please be aware that it is a bit of an extensive video for today as there are numerous things that are covered in here. But without further ado, let's get started. But in a recent interview, IGN spoke to Cold Iron's head of studio Craig Sikenvish, as well as the creative director Matt Higson and a narrative designer Chris Letoile, who have released interesting information about how this game intersects with the Alien universe. According to what was explained by Sikenvish, Alien's Fireteam is here to tell a new story, and there's a cohesive narrative spread across its campaigns. So in other words, each of the campaigns intersect one another, creating a storyline in the game. So just to top it a little bit, according to our timeline, Alien's Fireteam falls 23 years after the events in Alien 3, and about 177 years prior Alien Resurrection, which is when our beloved alien Ripley is brought back to life after being cloned. But certainly, this changes our perspective from Alien's Fireteam completely, as for what I understand, and this is my own perspective, but it is a new story that runs alongside the core saga, bringing a new perspective to what happens outside of the Alien movies in the Outer Rim. And we're going to take a look into that, on what's happening to people in these remote areas as more and more enterprises are generating misery among them, and finally the government decides to step in and take some action. But the narrative designer Chris Letoile gave us a crash course in future history. So, quote unquote, one of the major events in our backstory is the passing of the Colonial Protection Act in 2087. That is a government reaction to what the companies were doing in the Outer Rim, in the frontier, basically saying corporations have been running roughshod over everything out there, causing a lot of people misery. We're going to take a more active hand on this. Now, you will be one of the colonial marines enlisted for this cause. Now, in this same interview, Sikenvish tells us that Alien's Fireteam, it is a co-op survival shooter, but it's pretty heavily bent towards an RPG genre. That's where a lot of Cold Iron's team comes from, and you're not playing a preset person. We're trying to make it so that you can inhabit the world yourself. That's what he mentioned. Now, from this timeline and for what developers are aiming for in terms of an RPG approach, we can think of what developers have stated previously, as they have mentioned that the game will contain about 20 different enemy types. And although it hasn't been confirmed, but there could be many variants of xenomorphs previously seen in the movies that could potentially have made its way to the other areas within the universe. Additionally, all enemies have different AIs and behaviors, a bunch of different xenomorphs, but you will be fighting synthetics as well, and this has been confirmed, which is pretty interesting, as we will be able to see some firepower coming from the synthetics and will not just be fighting xenomorphs. Additionally to this, there will be a lot of new additions to the universe, which have been designated by Cold Iron Studios. They will be adding new locations, new iconic places that will not necessarily be the ones as in the movies. However, they have also mentioned that they plan on bringing things into their future from Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And again, I quote unquote, there are themes. There are things that happen in Prometheus and Alien Covenant that do show up in the game as well, Sikenvish tells us. I think we're planning on talking about those later, but we're pulling Prometheus and Covenant into the future of the timeline. Maybe we'll run into some relics from the engineers, or zap some neomorphs or deacons in addition to xenomorphs. Just don't expect an android who looks like Michael Fassbender to show up and give a flute lesson with a rhythm-based minigame. And no, seriously, apparently IGN also asked this question and the answer was no. Now, that's just a glimpse, I guess, in regards to how Alien's Fireteam fits into this massive universe. Now, let's talk a little bit more in terms of how this game, being a co-op survival shooter, it's pretty heavily bent towards an RPG type of game. To start with, developers have talked a little bit more about the customization within the game, stating the following. Again, this quote unquote, in space, no one can enforce your dress code, so expect plenty of customization. You'll be able to wear your cowboy hat or your your classic colonial marine helmet, or awesome synth sunglasses. In Aliens, there are about a dozen guns that are shown. We have about 30 guns in our game and now 70 or 80 mods and attachments to customize those guns. We've been given the opportunity to expand upon what we've seen in the films, and when we started looking at that, we realized we needed to have multiple manufacturers for the guns and the gear in there. So there would be plenty of weapon suppliers for what has been stated in this interview, and this is where the team also jumped on their own contribution to the franchise. So in addition to armored battle systems and Weyland-Yutani, who supplies much of the arsenal seen in James Cameron's film, there's also Hyperdyne Systems, the company responsible for creating Ash and Bishop. Now, I quote again, in our timeline, they have a weapons manufacturing arm that provides guns to whoever is going to buy them, including colonists, corporations, and the UACM. Definitely buys their stuff because it's a little more experimental, and as a game, it lets us branch out a little from what was seen in Aliens. Now, if this doesn't cut your attention, maybe this will, because each of those companies, they have their own allegiance. For example, Armored Battle Systems, it's a primary supplier of the United Americas. Weyland-Yutani is in cahoots with the Anglo-Japanese Three-World Empire. Meanwhile, Hyperdyne is more popular with a third faction, which is the United of Progressive Peoples. So in a nutshell, there's more to this game than just a simple shooter experience. And remember, at the beginning I mentioned that I was going to bring something else that they talked about in this interview. Well, I was saving the best for the end, and please let me know if you were aware of this already and what are your thoughts on it. Now, if you're after some fresh and officially canon Aliens lore, the universe is currently growing faster, and Aliens Fireteam will be getting an official prequel novel which is called Aliens Infiltrator. That's pretty fascinating, right? This game will have its own prequel, which is in the form of a novel, and basically this novel is set on a Weyland-Yutani facility where scientists are testing xenomorph biomaterials on living creatures, and a new shipment of eggs is expected to arrive. It's pretty safe to assume this will not go smoothly, since it's immediately followed by a survival shooter video game. Now, in regards to this, we have another quote from Zigevish, who tells us, in the future of the timeline, it has just gotten to critical mass. It's widely known that Weyland-Yutani is the bad guy. It's pretty easy for us to start right off the bat with everyone knowing if Weyland-Yutani is involved. Something bad is happening here. Now, my friends, certainly there are numerous things that are to be expected from this game, and there will be more details coming up next. But for today, this is the video that I have prepared for you today. As well, I'm including the link to this interview in the description box in case you want to check it for the complete portion of it. I just included here the items that I consider were the most relevant, but there's more information in case you want to check it out. And as always, I am very interested in your opinion, so make sure to comment below with what you think of this new information and the approach that they're taking towards this game. Now, before I go, I want to ask you to please give this one a thumbs up, as it helps us get to more people, and as well I want to thank you for watching this video. It really supports the channel, and if you enjoy the content, consider subscribing and activating all notifications on so that you don't miss any of my future videos, and I will see you on my next one. Goodbye.